Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After we run you through the news you need to know about, we're going to get you to the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Before we get to that, I want to say I apologize for the fan. Okay, I know it's loud, but it can't be helped. And then I also apologize for the pugs if you hear those in the background. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins have signed their quarterback of the future, Tua Tagovailoa. Again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. Most of this year's top draft picks, including the number one overall pick, Joe Burrow, have not signed their deals yet. But you can put Tua Tagovailoa in the signed column. On Monday, the Dolphins agreed to terms with their quarterback of the future. Per the terms, Tua will earn $30 million over the first 4 years of the contract. The Dolphins also have a fifth-year option because he is a first-round pick. Now, this is obviously an obvious news story. We all know this is going to happen. It's cool that it got done as fast as it did, obviously, because of the conditions and how everybody's living, number one. Number two, most of the first-round picks haven't even been signed. I don't know how many have been to this point. I think it's like Derek Brown and Tua are the only ones I know for sure have been signed. I think Justin Jefferson was signed, but it's cool that they got it done, number one. But the thing that I think about when I look at this, if you're the Dolphins, hopefully we can get this roster going because, like a Patrick Mahomes and what the Kansas City Chiefs were able to do is build that roster because they didn't have to pay a quarterback $100 million. GMs talk about that a lot where if you could get a great quarterback on a rookie deal, your championship window is pretty, it increases your chances to win a championship because you could build the team around a great quarterback if you know what you're doing. And your championship window is extended a little bit. Obviously, if you have a great quarterback, it's always going to be a lot bigger. So, and hopefully by the time 2024 comes around, we've been a very competitive team for a good amount of time, and really we're able to build a foundation and a great team for many years to come at that point. So I'm very excited for the future of this team. They have a great opportunity to really capitalize on all of the talent that they have accumulated, and especially Tua, who one of my favorite players we've drafted in a very long time. Definitely my favorite player we've drafted of the last decade. It's not even close. Definitely the most, I'm excited to see play. I think you could say that for all Dolphins fans. And one thing I will say before we move on from Tua, we're not even going to get into it. I was going to get into this whole thing that people say that Tua never threw with pressure in his face and never threw into tight windows. And I've watched a lot of Tua before we drafted him and then after we drafted him. I've watched a lot of him. It is legitimately ignorant to say that Tua can't throw with pressure. And I know he had a good offensive line, but he didn't have a consistent run game. His defense was, and I know it's crazy to say this, but Alabama's defense wasn't that good, especially last year. It was obviously one of the better ones in the nation, but compared to the top teams, you talk about LSU and some of the other, Georgia's defense, they weren't as good as those defenses, or even Auburn's defense last year. So I think when you actually watch Tua play, a lot of the things that you hear are not true. Obviously, the injuries thing is something that is a completely different argument, but the whole thing about him not being able to throw into tight windows and with pressure in his face is not true. Tua did that a lot, especially against the top teams. And it's always a very accurate ball, perfect mechanics, all that stuff. Never really thrown off of his back foot. The balls really never get away from him when he has pressure. So I just wanted to say that. That's one of the things that I noticed a lot when I was watching him play is, the whole criticism of him not being able to throw with pressure is not true. And his ability to take hits is completely... excuse me. I'm getting too far ahead of myself here. But all of the injuries that he sustained that were, hurt were... Injuries, like the ankle thing, was from a really bad ankle injury against Georgia. It actually should have been worse than it was. And then he had ankle issues after that. The hip thing, all of those were car crash, bad injuries. And one thing I want to bring up about Tua before we move on, and I think it's important. If you watch a lot of Tua ball, one of the things that you notice, and I don't know if this is a college football thing, because I don't watch as much college football as a lot of other people do. I only watch a ton of it, if it's a big game or before the draft. But one of the things I did notice a lot is people went for his legs a lot. And a lot of, literally I would say 95% of his sacks that he took, every single one of them, where either it was a safety blitz or a defensive lineman was shooting at his legs. And Obviously, it was intentional because it happened too many times. I just thought that was interesting. Obviously, that stuff is not allowed in the NFL. I don't know the college rules when it comes to that kind of stuff. None of them were flagged, so maybe protect your quarterback, college football. So those are the things I really noticed that maybe not a lot of other people are talking about, that I thought was really interesting for Dolphins fans to know. Because it's like I said, I think it's ignorant to say some of those things about Tua when it comes to him not being able to throw with pressure, and especially with tight windows. I mean, that's insane to say that about Tua, number one. And I thought it was weird, and like I said, you guys would have to tell me down in the comment section below just how many times people went for his legs. And like I was saying before with the injury stuff, a lot of those were either injuries from a bad injury that he had, that, but I feel like Tua's durability and his overall toughness is without question. He's completely fine. I mean, you see him get hit a lot. I mean, even Javon Kinlaw put a huge hit on him when they played South Carolina last year, and he got up like it was nothing. So I think a lot of the stuff is a little bit overblown, and just a little bit, some interesting Tua things that I saw when I was watching him. He's a great quarterback. I mean, every time you watch Tua, it's like, god dang. I mean, we really made the right pick, in my opinion. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback for a long time for the Miami Dolphins. So insane. And I know I've always been a huge Tua fan, and I know some people disagree with that, but just him playing the game of football is something really special to watch. And one of the most accurate, and this is not an exaggeration, the most accurate quarterback that I've seen come out of college in a very long time. Like, he might be the most accurate I've ever seen come out of college. I've never seen a quarterback at this stage of his career, coming straight out of college, especially in the last few years, where a lot of these top picks really rely on physical, that's a word, physical attributes. Tua is a master pocket passer when it comes to college football. Like, it doesn't get better than Tua come out of college. His ability to really go from read 1 to read 3 or to read 4, and to manipulate the defense with his head and his eyes, I've never seen anything like it coming out of college. Everybody has things to work on, especially coming out of college, but to be that refined as a pocket passer and that accurate with the football, the ability to read coverages, the ability to manipulate the back end, because that's his game, as a pocket passer, is something that I have never seen before. Even people hyped up Baker Mayfield as a pocket passer, and with his accuracy and his arm, it doesn't even come close to Tua. So it just gets me excited. You guys should all watch Tua in college. It's pretty cool. It's pretty dang good. Let's see here. Let's move on. I know I spent probably too much time on that, but I'm excited about it. All right, everybody, calm down. All right, we got Tua. I'm excited. I'm on the train, guys. I've been on the train. I was on the train before the draft. Now I'm definitely on the train, and it's definitely left the station. That gets me even more excited thinking about it. Let's move on to this next news story, which is really interesting. This comes from Pro Football Rumors as well. Let me get the right one here, because there's multiple of these. I just want to get the wrong article here. The Dolphins are still interested in Logan Ryan. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. The team, with 2 cornerbacks signed for more than $15 million a year, still have interest in adding another veteran. The Dolphins are still in the mix for Logan Ryan, Mike Garafolo of NFL.com notes. Ryan and the Dolphins have engaged in recent discussions, per Garafolo. Even the Jets may now be a better bet to land the expatriate and Titan defender. Ryan has said he will not return to the Titans. The Dolphins were high on Ryan in March, but no deal commenced. The 29-year-old cornerback has remained in free agency for nearly 2 months. A report earlier indicated that the Jets are expected to land Ryan, who still wants $10 million a year. That might be unrealistic at this point in the offseason, but the Jets have a far bigger need at cornerback than the Dolphins. So there's a lot of that to unpack. Hopefully I read that fine with you. Guys, I'm really terrible at reading. It's something I need to work on for podcasting. But the Logan Ryan thing is interesting because I've said this a million times. The Dolphins want to build their back end first, and then they kind of move forward from there. And really, they just kind of want to stay at the back end. That's what New England did, and that's where they really invest a lot of their capital in, whether that be free agency or draft capital. The Dolphins have a really good secondary. The only real mystery is free safety, and Logan Ryan could help that. He's a veteran. He was in the New England defense, so obviously he's versatile enough. I really do feel like he is coming out of his prime. Watching Logan Ryan last year, with all these rumors swirling around, He's not as good as he used to be when he was in New England. I don't think he's that good still, because he was a really good, really underrated corner when he was in New England, and they really asked him to do a lot of different stuff in Tennessee, whether that be blitzing or playing nickel at times, or he played a ton of zone in Tennessee, which is not something that New England does the majority of the time. So, and that's not something we do. But he was in New England system, so that's not an issue. But I think there's a lot to like about this. He could play free safety, which is what I was talking about earlier. It's kind of a mystery spot. And I think that would help out the defense a lot because he's had experience there. He did that a little bit in Tennessee. I can't remember if he did any of that in New England. I have to go. I mean, that's going way back. But I obviously remember him in New England. It was a great corner there. So, he's getting up there in age. He's a smart football player. He's a veteran. I think it would be a safer bet for him to play free safety if he was. Because if you think about it, where would he play on the Dolphins defense? The Dolphins want him. He's a veteran player. Obviously, he's going to get playing time. They're going to use him if they sign him. So I just don't, he's not going to be an outside corner. The slot cornerback position is either going to Igbenogany. If they move Bobby McCain for free safety, then that's where he's going. So I think he would play safety. If I had to bet money, if the Dolphins sign Logan Ryan tomorrow, I would bet that he would play free safety. That's just me. What you're really asked to do in this defense is not just safety duties, but a lot of the time you do have to match up in man-to-man coverage with someone. And Eric Rowe is a perfect example of that. Obviously, cornerback background, transitioned to strong safety, especially in this defense, so well because of that, and was really able to take out the team's best tight end at times. He was actually surprisingly good in run defense. He's a great tackler in the open field. Eric Rowe really surprised everybody last year. So, and again, and I'll leave you with this. I think the Logan Ryan signing would be good for the Dolphins. It adds another veteran player to a really young defense who has a lot of experience in that system. Brian Flores knows him obviously well, coached him in New England. So all of those things are positives, and it really helps fill a need there. So I think he would be a really good signing. Because as of right now, you're either going to have Bobby McCain at free safety, or you're going to have Igbenogany, who's a young rookie, playing a very important position on the defense. So it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out. If you asked me right now, who would you rather have at free safety, Bobby McCain, Igbenogany, or Logan Ryan, it's a pretty easy answer. I would say Logan Ryan. So I think it would improve the team. And the only reason I say that is because Noah doesn't have any experience in the NFL yet. So to plug him and play him at free safety and expect him to be, and that's again, it's a position he hasn't played, and corner, even though I think his skill set fits it, you're going to have a bit of a learning curve there. And Bobby McCain is not a good free safety. So I think it would be an upgrade there at that position. The Dolphins do have Fedulum that they got from Cincinnati. Maybe he can turn into something. We don't know. But as of right now, I'm penciling him in as a really good special teams player. So we don't really know how that's going to shake out. But Fedulum could be an interesting hat to throw in the ring at free safety. But however you slice it, the secondary for the Dolphins is really strong. It's very talented. And it's going to be exciting to watch. I mean, you could take two of the best receivers out of the game with Byron Jones and X. And who knows, maybe Byron Jones, I highly doubt it because I heard some people talking about maybe Byron Jones will play a little bit of free safety. I don't think he will. I think he's going to play a lot of corner, outside corner. It's going to be interesting to see how things shake out. I think people can move around a lot. If they can't find their free safety that they trust, I think you could maybe see Byron Jones there. Like the whole New England thing, you put your number one corner on an island, and then you double team the team's second best receiver. So maybe that's what the Dolphins want to do with that. It's just there's a whole lot of things you can do with this lineup because it's so good and talented. And you can't forget about Nick Needham, who had a great undrafted rookie season. So I think it would make the team better if the Dolphins can get the deal done. And I think you can probably sleep better at night if you're the defensive coordinator, if you're Brian Flores, knowing that you have someone with a ton of experience, very talented at that position, and knows the system, doesn't have to learn it, and is obviously a veteran player. And one last point I want to make about the Logan Ryan thing. I think it would be a great move for the Dolphins. I mean, it would bolster secondary that's already amazing. Plus, you still someone that your rival team reportedly really wants. So that's a pretty awesome day if the Dolphins were able to get a deal done with Logan Ryan. You can make the argument that if you do want to play Igbenogany at free safety, then you should just go ahead and do it and let him learn. If you do that argument, I'm definitely, I'd be like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. You're gonna have some growing pains, but he's a great open field tackler. He's a physical corner. I think he would play great at free safety. He's a really good athlete. And I think his physicality really fits that position, especially how we play free safety in this defense. So I think it's a double-edged sword there. Maybe you stunt the growth of a young player if you get Logan Ryan and kind of wedge him in at free safety. Then Noah really doesn't have a place to go. And he could just learn and develop on the bench. Because, again, if you fill that free safety role, then the slot corner role is going to get even more crowded with Nick Needham, who's coming off a great year, and Bobby McCain. So maybe the best thing would be to maybe have that learning curve there for Igbenogany. So let's move on to the fan Q&A, ladies and gentlemen, where we answer fans' questions. There wasn't a lot of news. Really only two major news stories. But the idea of Logan Ryan, Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, and Eric Rowe, who's an underrated player, who played really well for us last year, is pretty scary, man. If I was an offense, I would not want to play that secondary. Let's just put it that way. Especially the fact that we play man defense. And every single one of those guys can tackle. And every single one of those guys are pretty physical. So it's gonna you're going to get real tired as a receiver at the end of games. You know, getting pressed by Byron, and even if Logan, wherever he would play. I mean, that'll wear you out right there. So let's move on to the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. This first question comes from TR3MC. He says, do you think the Dolphins will be a top 10 defense this upcoming season with all the defensive players they've added through free agency and the draft? Not just talking about the secondary, let's focus on the defensive front to answer TR3MC's question. They got bigger and faster on the defensive front. Not only on the defensive end or defensive tackle positions, but they also did on the linebacker positions as well, especially on the outside. So, and you're coming off of a year where Sam McGuavin maybe didn't play to expectations, but still had a pretty decent year for someone who's first year in the league coming from the CFL. Then you had Jerome Baker, who had a really good year, but it was overshadowed by the fact that the defense wasn't that good. And then Raekwon McMillan, who played very well when he finally came back into the lineup, and the Dolphins started to use him more on first and second down. And especially when we used him at outside linebacker. Like the Kyle Van Noy position, like Raekwon was killing people at that position. So you're coming off a year where a lot of your young talent was developing in the right direction at the linebacker position, not to mention the fact that you added a lot of speed and strength, and you got a lot bigger and faster on the defensive front. The Dolphins' defense will be leaps and bounds better than it was a year ago. There's no doubt about that. Especially with Brian and the coaching staff and how they run defense and how just game plan ready every week that team was and how they got better as the year went on. This defense should be pretty good. So will it be a top 10 defense? It definitely has the potential to be. But we'll see. We have to see it all come together, you know. I'm excited to see that. And maybe there's a little bit of a learning curve playing with each other, maybe for the first month of the season. Hopefully there's not. Hopefully they all gel. But it's a very talented defense that's not getting talked about enough. I mean, it really is. And I'm excited about it. Not to mention, I forgot about Weaver, Curtis Weaver, who they drafted, who's a really good pass rusher. They got Raekwon Davis the second round, who's a really good run defender. Christian Wilkins is a year better, hopefully. So there's, not to mention, like I said, the additions of, I didn't say him by name, but Ogba, Shaq Lawson. The defensive front is way, and obviously Kyle Van Noy, how could I forget, is just way more talented. The entire defense is nights and days better. So to answer your question, TR3MC, is this defense going to be a top 10 defense? It definitely has the potential to be, I will say that. And it's definitely going to be a good defense. Now, top 10 is a great defense. We'll see how things go, but it definitely has the potential to be a great defense, barring any injuries going through the 2020 season. This next question comes from Beef. He asks, I understand you're in Florida, and this may be too early to tell, but I've been wanting to ask this for a while. After the draft and all of the offseason moves the Dolphins have done, have you noticed more fans have been excited and obsessed about this team more than ever? Are you seeing more people wearing Dolphins gear in public? Maybe see bandwagon fans? Well, to answer your question, Beef, the news came out. First of all, there's never been more Dolphins topics. It's all related to Tua, obviously, but will Tua start? Is he going to start over Fitzpatrick? Is he going to start over Josh Rosen? I've never seen so much Dolphins talk, definitely in the last decade, other than, I guess, Bountygate, or not Bountygate, Bullygate. Stuff like that. Like, it just hasn't, the national media just hasn't cared about this team for good reason. I mean, we haven't been all that good, so, it's kind of deserved. But, yeah, I haven't seen anything like this. Obviously with the news that Tua's jersey is the number one jersey sold on NFLshop.com. It was the best seller, which is awesome. It's just, I can't state this enough of how good he is. Like, he is a really good player, dude. He really is. He really, 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 really is. So I think combination of, since he's such a good player, he won a national title at Alabama. He is a popular figure in Alabama, so maybe that has an impact on his jersey sales. Maybe a lot of those are Alabama fans. I could see that. But regardless, like, the hype and the optimism, not just on a hardcore fan level, but a nationwide level and a surface level in terms of fans, hasn't been higher in the last 10 years because of the quarterback. So I think you're right about that. And hopefully, all of that, can continue to go in the right direction as we actually play games. So, yeah, I agree. I think, and to answer your question specifically, no. I mean, I think you see the amount of Dolphin jerseys that you, or just, what you would normally see, but especially if you're in Miami. But, I think on a national level, there's no doubt that this team hasn't been talked about as much, hasn't been, everybody hasn't been as interested in the Dolphins as they are right now because of number one. And I'm obviously, I think we're all excited because of that. This next question comes from AMV. He says, "Hey Skaggs, love the show, man. I really appreciate it. You're awesome, dude. Do you think the Bills and Josh Allen are a bit overrated? Personally, they are. I think they are, since they only went 10-6 last season, which was the same record as us in 2016, and we all know how 2017 went. I see the Bills as a great matchup for us, considering Josh Allen's inaccuracy in our secondary. What are your thoughts on this? I really don't see the Bills just running away with the division this year." Yeah, that's an issue for him. First of all, he struggled hard against New England's defense. I think he scored 10 points. He scored like 17 points in 2 games against New England, or maybe it's just a little bit over that. When you play man-to-man like we do, and he even struggled when we were on the road in Buffalo against us, and we had people coming off the dang block to play for us at corner. So, and he struggled with that deep, because if you're playing man defense, and especially with some of the stuff that we do up front to confuse offensive pass protections, so we do that. We're very creative up front. We weren't as creative as we could have been because of the talent. I'm getting too far ahead of myself right now. But because the man-to-man coverage that the Dolphins do play, like 98, I think it was 95% of the time last year, that's probably going to go up this year. And you're going to see a lot more blitzing, which is going to be cool. He's going to have to fit it, and especially with the talent level, like it's going to be tight, and he obviously has accuracy issues. So yeah, it's a bad matchup for Allen if he didn't get, he would have to get significantly better at throwing the football from the pocket. The thing that's killed us with him is his ability to run the football. We just can't contain him. In last year, Brian Flores did the best job. Adam Gase's staff never did that good of a job against him, and we finally did a good job of, especially in Buffalo. When we came down to Miami, it was a little bit worse, but we did a really good job in terms of game planning for that. And I think it's going to get even better because our defense is more athletic, it's bigger, it's more physical. We should be able to deal with the run game a lot better than we did a year ago. So, yeah, I think when you look at that team, it's a lot of it's going to have to depend on him, and really how far. If they win the division, that means he's playing great. In my opinion, I don't think that team can carry them to an AFC championship because I think we're a good enough team where that can't. Your quarterback's going to have to play well to beat us. So, in my opinion, and we'll see how the defense comes together because we'll see. But I don't think you're going to get a lot of. You can't beat us 10-17. I just don't think that's going to happen. And you can, field position, pump blocks, all that stuff. I think if we don't shoot ourselves in the foot, they're going to be close games. So I think for those reasons with his inaccuracy issues, and he relies heavily on his legs, that I think we have a good shot at it. This next question comes from Ethan. He says, "Hey Skaggs, could the fact that Noah chose a number in the 40s indicate he's going to play safety, while Bobbly, if I could speak, switches to corner?" No. I mean, maybe. I doubt that. I mean, who safeties? I mean, Eric Rowe switched mid-season, so I guess that really doesn't count. But I mean, Rashad had 20 for all those years, so no, it doesn't. Just because he's wearing 40s doesn't mean he's not going to be a corner. So yeah, I don't think you could put too much stock into that one, Ethan. But if to answer your question, I think there's a good shot that he will. I think that's why they drafted him. I mean, we're not going to know that until camp starts and stuff of that nature. But I do have a feeling that's why they drafted him. So we'll see how things shake out. Brandon, this question comes from Brandon. He says, "Who do we have at the safety position? I don't feel too good about our back end outside of corner." Well, Eric Rowe is, especially in this defense, first of all, to explain this, Eric Rowe is on the line. He's basically a corner that plays in the box, if that makes sense. We rarely do like deep half stuff. Usually it's single high. It's really the free safety that has to do more traditional safety stuff most of the time. Eric Rowe is basically an extra corner. That's what he is. And he matches up with the tight ends a lot. So Eric Rowe, he does really well in our defense. And the free safety issue is, first of all, the issue that we're having at free safety is Bobby. He could stay healthy at that position, number one. Number two, his tackling is terrible. His 50-50 ball is not great. He really can't track the ball when it's in the air. A lot of the times he loses it, and bad things happen because of that. I just think Bobby's he's a physical player. I think he's better up on the line of scrimmage in the slot than he is off the ball. That's just my opinion. I just don't. Not only could he not take the physical nature of playing the safety position, but he also is not that great of an open field tackler, like I said, and I just don't think his ball skills for that position are, out of this world. Plus, he gets out of position a lot. There's a whole lot of things with Bobby McCain. He gave up a lot of touchdowns on blown coverages. In his career, really, he's done that a lot. So I just don't want him at free safety. I just don't think he's a good safety, and I think that position needs to be, at least someone else needs to be tried there, and just to see how things work out. I just think he's a better slot corner. And he's possibly, if you think about it, the reason he got his contract was because he's a slot corner, not because he's a free safety. And I think he's probably, he is the best slot corner on this team. So if he were to switch to that position, it would be a benefit to the team. So you can feel, I think you could really, the two safety spots I'm not worried about, because one of them I'm pretty confident in. The third one, or the free safety position is something I guess you could feel a little bit queasy about, because that's really the only position on the defense, and I'm like, what is going to happen there? So we'll see how things work out. Because I tend to agree with you, Brandon, because not the strong safety position, but the free safety position it's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Because we don't have an answer for that right now. This next question comes from Big Red. He says, "Hey Skaggs, who do you think is going to have a breakout season this year?" Okay, Mike Gesicki is definitely going to have a breakout season. He obviously had a really good season last year, and I think with a better offensive line, he's going to have a really good year. I would say Mike Gesicki. I would say Jerome Baker is going to get a lot more credit, even though he's been a very good player for a good hot minute, pretty much since his rookie season. I think you can see Weaver stealing the Rookie of the Year for the Dolphins because he has a lot of potential, and I think he fits well in this defense. Sorry, the mic died for a second there. So yeah, I think breakout. Rookies aren't counted here because I'm gonna pick. I think to really nail this down. I mean, Preston Williams, if he stays healthy, is gonna have a better year than he did last year. Breakout player. I'm gonna go with Mike Gesicki, man. He had a great year last year. 5 tubs, over 600 yards receiving. Could have had more touchdowns. He was missed a couple times at the end of the year. But I think he's actually a really good he's a very good receiving tight end, and obviously he didn't fit the system actually all that well because we try to do a lot of I-form stuff, and it just, he's basically off the field. I think with the spread system that Chan Gailey runs, he's going to get a lot more opportunities and really to succeed. I'm excited to see what he can do in this offense, so I'm pumped. So I'm going to go with Mike Gesicki on that one. That question came from Big Red, and I swear I don't think I actually said who that question came from, so that's my bad. And the last question came from Brandon. I don't know if I forgot to say that too. The 6th question comes from SM. SM says, I feel like we didn't go after undrafted free agents as hard as we did in years past because we have so many draft picks. He says, SM says, we had so many draft picks. Would have liked to pick up Thad Moss, put him across from Mike Gesicki. Thoughts? I mean, it would have been cool because I think Thad Moss is a name, but he's a good blocking tight end. His receiving prowess is interesting. He's obviously not Randy Moss, but yeah, it would have been cool to have that. I'm not gonna say it's not gonna be. It would not have been cool to have Thaddeus Moss, but the Dolphins have Durham Smythe still, Mike Gesicki, and really Mike fits the system. And really Thaddeus Moss, I don't think he fits the spread system as well as Mike does. And are they gonna run a lot of 2 tight end stuff? We'll see. Or is this going to be a little bit more pass happy? I think it's going to be a little bit more pass happy, even though it's going to be interesting what Brian was around a spread offense in New England where they were more pass heavy, and everything they did in terms of running the ball was out of the spread. So it's not like he hasn't seen that with pairing that up with a good defense. I think that's something that they're going to do. So I could see us being a more pass heavy team. So yeah, just to give you, I guess, another reason maybe why the Dolphins didn't get an extra run blocker for a tight end. This next question comes from Josh. Josh says, last question. Can our wide receiver group develop to be one of the best in the NFL? So this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, watching a lot of Tua. Tua is a master at the quick passing game, and he is so accurate. He throws before people even come out of their break. Preston is really good at that. He's a great route runner for his age, or for how long he's been in the league. He's always been, he was that in Colorado State, but seriously, some of the stuff that we've seen for Preston Williams in preseason and even in practices is like, this dude can break some ankles. So, I think Preston has that in his game where, I think Tua, a lot of the times, needs trust in receive. It's very Peyton Manning and Tom Brady like, and I'm not saying that he's Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, but his game is he reads body language a lot and can really just hammer it in there before anybody even turns their head or their shoulder. So you need someone who can get in and out of their breaks at a pretty good clip. I think Preston is good at that. DP isn't the greatest at that. His game is more 50-50 balls. He's a good route runner. I don't think he's as good as Devontae Parker. It's going to be interesting to see when Tua does get into the lineup, because Tua didn't throw a lot of 50-50 balls in college. He did do that in college, but that's not something that offense did a whole lot in college. It was most of the time, like I said, a lot of timing stuff. So I think to fit Tua, if we're talking about Tua right now, is that what we're talking about? Hopefully that was the question. He says, last question, can our receiver group develop? Yes, it can. It's very talented. It's very talented. I don't know why I brought this to Tua, but I think if Tua did play, it fits Tua as well. I'm excited to see because he really didn't. Jerry Jeudy and Ruggs and Devontae Smith or Devon Smith, I can't remember his name right now, and Waddle. Those three guys, Ruggs, Waddle, and Smith, are more intermediate deep threat guys. They're not 50-50 guys. Jerry Jeudy is the closest thing he had to that. Now Smith did some of that, but he's a smaller receiver. He's never really had someone like Devontae Parker who can just physically dominate NFL corners like he can. So I'm excited to see how that works. Because he's never really had that. And Devontae Parker, like I said, he was weird part. I'm not even getting into that. So I think it's a good mix. The slot corner role obviously is still open for debate, but if Albert Wilson is healthy and as Allen Hurns is a year, I think everything from the slot receiver should be okay. So yeah, I think it definitely can. I'm excited, dude. I'm excited for the spread look. I mean, you got DP Preston inside. You probably got Mike flexed out. Lined up, looking like he's in the slot, but he's not. He's just being Mike out there as a receiving tight end. And then maybe you got Hurns or Ford or Wilson in the slot, and it'd be cool to rotate those guys. And really, Jakeem Grant can come in on some other stuff, but I'm excited for that lineup the most, man. It's gonna be a fun offense to watch. So yeah, I think it can definitely be one of the more exciting groups in the league, especially with the spread offense. This next question comes from Ray. He says, "Are you comfortable starting Tua at any point next season? And if so, when do you think would be a good time?" No, I'm not. It's not. Actually, the more I watch of Tua, I'm definitely more comfortable than I think I was a podcast ago. And that's not because I didn't know he could throw the football. It's just some of the hit stuff that he I think is just way overblown. He can take licks, ladies and gentlemen. Go watch Tua play. It's just those two, the one against Georgia and then the one against Mississippi State, were just terrible. Those were really bad. I mean, Tannehill would have gotten hurt in those. So, and I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, Tannehill but Tannehill started, I think, 70 straight games or something crazy like that." So, what was the question? I'm getting lost over here. I apologize, guys. I am choking. Oh, do I feel comfortable about Tua starting? That question came from Ray. I am, but I am totally fine with that, actually. I think I'm more fine with it than I was before. I wouldn't mind him sitting a year. I'm not going to feel bad about that. I think everybody would feel good about it. Because I think the quarterback position is in a good place. If he doesn't have to be. The thing about it is, this is not the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a different roster. I don't know why everybody's like, well, why wouldn't you start Tua? Because the Dolphins have a good quarterback room. They don't need to throw him in there to win games. So I think that's a luxury the Dolphins have. And if he's better than everybody else, then yeah, play him. I'm totally fine with that. But if he's not, sit him a year and let him learn, and I'm fine with that. So I'm fine if he's the better one. If he's the best quarterback we have, then go ahead and go do it. Basically, what I'm saying to answer your question, I'm fine either way. If he's the best one, if he's the best quarterback, then you play him. Because that, I think that would be saying something. But if he doesn't beat anybody out, or whatever happens, if he plays, basically here's what I'm gonna say, without making it so complicated. If he plays, I'm cool with that. If he doesn't, I'm cool with that. Either way, it's fine with me. I think there's pros and cons to both sides of the argument. So yeah, I think that's a tough. It's not just a black and white. I could sit here for an hour. There's so many avenues you could go down. If Rosen plays, if he beats out Fitzpatrick, then that's a great scenario for the Dolphins going into next year because they still have 2 first-round picks. They could trade him for assets. Fitzy just won Team MVP last year. He's in Changeli's system with a better offensive line that there's a lot of different ways this could go. And I think Ryan did such a good job last year that he looked like a really good quarterback last year and carried a team, led the team in rushing, for God's sakes, and was a night-and-day difference between him and Josh Rosen in terms of production with the team as a whole. So I think Fitz has got to be feeling good about the whole situation. So I'm excited. Whatever happens from a fan perspective, I think you can feel pretty good about it. And I think in terms of Tua and what's best for him, that's a tough question. I think we would all feel great. I think if someone came from the future and was like, yeah, Tua didn't play, but Fitzpatrick killed it. It's like, okay. I mean, I think either way, whatever happens is a good thing, is my point. That is a tough question to answer. But hopefully I answered it just fine. That question came from Ray. In case I didn't say. This next question comes from Richard, and I'm sorry my mic I swear if I lost any audio. My mic keeps cutting out. If you hear pauses, it's not because I'm pausing, it's because the mic cuts out. I apologize. Hopefully that didn't happen. We'll see what happens. But anyway, this next question comes from Richard. He says, what about undrafted wide receivers Kurt Merritt and Matt Cole beating out Allen Hurns and Jakeem Grant? I don't think that's going to happen, Richard. He says Allen Hurns has done nothing to earn a contract extension. Jakeem Grant, and he also said Jakeem Grant always gets injured. I think Jakeem brings a lot on special teams, so he has a better chance of making the roster. But Allen Hurns, I think you shouldn't give up on him yet. This is a Pro Bowler. This is a former top NFL 100 player. He's a talented guy. This is a 1,000-yard receiver. If you remember in Dallas, he broke his leg. He was having a good year there. So he's a really good slot receiver if he's healthy. He's a great possession receiver is what I'm trying to say here. And he fits well in the slot. So I think it's a little bit premature to give up Allen Hurns. And everybody else, we could sit here for 1,000 years and talking about it. I think it's a tough position to crack on this team. Because you have Albert Wilson who could play there. You have Isaiah Ford who could play there. So I don't think any undrafted rookies are going to make the team and play that position. This next question comes from David. He says, sup, Skags? What's on one game besides Kansas City you are really looking forward to for our secondary to go up against their wide receiver core, fins up? Definitely the Buffalo Bills. That's the one I'm most excited for. I think my two ones I'm super hyped for is the Patriots and the Bills. Now, the Patriots don't have anyone to throw to, but I just want to see us against that team. And the Bills, obviously with Stephon Diggs there, Cole Beasley, and John Brown, I'm excited to see that matchup and see how good this defense can do. To answer your question, David, this next question comes from Beef. He says, if the Dolphins go to the playoffs this season, who do you see as the big teams Miami has to go through before the Super Bowl? Who do you see as the gatekeepers in the AFC? The gatekeepers in the AFC. That's a great way of putting it. So to answer your question, Beef, I think the gatekeepers to the AFC are the Ravens and Chiefs. I don't think it's even close. The Texans are probably a close third, but they're still not those teams yet. So I would say the gatekeepers are those two teams. So to win a Super Bowl the next 3 or 4 years, you're going to have to go through the Texans, Chiefs, or Ravens. But as of right now, the 1 and 2 seeds are the Ravens and the Chiefs. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, do you think our receivers are good enough, or should we look forward to next year's draft? They're definitely good enough. So I think, to answer your question, they're good enough. To answer your question, Brandon. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, we loaded up on linemen this year. Who do you think will actually play? I think Eric Flowers is going to play. Karras is going to play. Robert Hunt has a shot at it. He should probably play at guard. I think those are the guys you can pencil in. This next question comes from Brandon in terms of new additions. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, I really like Devontae Parker, but how long do you think we can keep him? After this year's a free agent? He should be a Dolphin for life if he continues to play well. This next question comes from Hunter. He says, what's your favorite part of Tua's game? This is a great question. I think his ability, if I could, here 2 things I think about Tua. Number 1 is quick release. Not number 1. I would say the combination of his quick release, his accuracy is my favorite thing of Tua. But my tied with 1 is his ability to manipulate defenses with his head and his eyes. It is something I have never seen. I'm going to keep saying it. This man is a great, he's like, dude, you already got all the tools, man. We don't have to teach you to do anything, really, other than to, help you get acclimated to reading NFL defenses, because obviously that's different than college. But yeah, I would say those are my 2 favorite things when I watch Tua is his accuracy, his quick release, and his ability, if I could speak, to manipulate defenses with his head. It's insane. And he's got this, pump fake that he does too, which helps a lot. Because he'll catch you slipping, and if he catches you slipping, it's as soon as he sees a safety in the wrong spot, and he knows that he's got you, it's game over with his accuracy. His ability to open throwing lanes because of it is crazy, dude. So yeah, those are my favorite parts of his game. This next question comes from Josh. Josh says, Skaggs, do you believe that we can have a top 5 defense? Top 5 is a strong one. That means the front is humming. But secondary-wise, I mean, it's definitely a top 5 secondary in the league. So it has the potential to be great. That's for sure. To answer your question, Josh. This next question comes from SM. He says, give me your starting O-line and starting D-line. Okay, my starting offensive line, Austin Jackson at left tackle, right tackle Jesse Davis, right guard Robert Hunt, left guard Eric Flowers, center Ted Karras. That's my starting offensive line. My starting defensive line, starting to defeat. God, I can't talk. My 2 starting DTs, and that's depending on what front we run. But the top 2 on the depth chart, I would say Devon Godshaw and Christian Wilkins. The ends, I would say Ogba and Shaq are probably going to start, unless Raekwon Davis kind of gets penciled in there at some point. And your outside linebacker / pass rushers for third down, I would say Curtis Weaver and Kyle Van Noy. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, I really don't think Tua should play this year. Do you? I don't think he should, because I think that's a little crazy, but like I said, I'm okay either way. I think there's pros and cons to both sides. This next question comes from SM. He says, which would worse... Excuse me. God, if I could talk. SM says, which would be worse to watch? Tom Brady wins another Super Bowl or the Patriots draft Trevor Lawrence in 2021? I mean, that's a tough question to answer. Listen, we don't know if Trevor's going to be great. I don't even care what... I want to win a Super Bowl, obviously. And if Tom is in the way of that, I'd get out of the way. But I don't think the Dolphins are going to be winning the Super Bowl this year. I think they have a little bit of more time to build, but they're definitely getting there, that's for sure. So if Tom wins a Super Bowl, I'm not going to get mad about it. New England is our division rival. It's bigger than Tom Brady. So this next question comes from Beef. He says, hey Skaggs, what are your favorite sources from Miami Dolphins and football news, and which ones do you stay the heck away from? Okay, in terms of reading things, I would say Pro Football Rumors is the number one in my heart. When training camp starts, the Sun Sentinel and the Palm Beach Post are probably mainstays for me. So those 3, I would say, those are the top 3. So I guess that answers your question. In terms of things to stay away from, I would say Bleacher Report. There's just a bunch of nonsense on Bleacher Report. It's mostly nonsense on Bleacher Report. And in terms of opinionative stuff, I would say NBC Sports stuff is really good. That's not home based. So yeah, there you go. This next question comes from SM. He says, does Ryan Fitzpatrick report to camp in better shape than last season? Probably. This next question comes from Josh. He says, are you getting a Tua jersey? I think we all are. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, how many games do you think the defense will win for us this year? We'll see. I don't like to do prediction stuff. This next question comes from SM. He says, which is more likely to happen? Bellagio leads the team in rushing or Josh Rosen leads the team in passing touchdowns? Jesus, that's a good question. SM coming in with the hard-hitting questions. So in case I said that too fast, what's more likely? Rosen leads the team in passing touchdowns or Kalen Ballage leads the team in rushing touchdowns? I'm going to say Kalen Ballage leads the team in rushing touchdowns. He's still talented. Even though Josh Rosen, I'm switching. I'm going Josh Rosen. I think it's more likely because I just don't know what happened to Kalen Ballage. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, who do you think will be the leader in our division, the new leader in our division? Hopefully we will be. I think we have a dang good shot at it. This next question comes from Beef. He says, hey Skaggs, I want to run this by you. It's about the logo. A lot of fans hate the Dolphins' current logo, maybe because it looks effeminate. It looks like something from SeaWorld, and it does not have the football helmet, which gives its identity as a football team. This current logo is just as the mascot animal in its pure form. I know this team doesn't have much intimidating or masculine mascot, the most masculine mascot in the league. But that's not why I choose to like this team. I can understand why fans who want the retro uniforms, but it won't make the Dolphins any better. Just hearing fans not liking this team over the logo is ridiculous. The Miami Dolphins will have a chance to update the logo in a few years or sooner. Do you think some fans are right for the logo looking bad? and that it should look tougher. What's your opinion on the current logo, and does it look good at all? Sorry if it sounded like a rant. Okay, so that's a great question, and that's the last question of the day from, in case I didn't say it, Beef. About the logo, dude, if someone's like, I don't like the Dolphins because of the logo, that's the guy that, you don't ever want to associate yourself with people who is like, I like a horse, so I like the Broncos. It's like, you don't watch football, dude. Now, everyone starts somewhere when it comes to picking a team, so I'm assuming at some point someone saw the Raiders uniforms. If they don't have any family relations to it, and there's no tradition behind it, it's just, I'm just becoming a sports fan. I see the blue and silver from the Cowboys and white. I see the aqua and orange from the Dolphins. Then I get it. You have to start somewhere. I understand that. So there's a place for that, but the people are that like, I don't like the Dolphins with the logo. They don't watch football, so you got to stay away from those people. They're toxic. They could infect you. You got to get away from those people. They're scary. But so yeah, what do I think about the logo? I don't mind the logo. I think our retro uniforms, my favorite personally, uniforms. It gets up there top 3. I love our 2012 uniforms. I love those uniforms. I love the helmet. I love everything about those uniforms. I'm a white jersey guy, so I like my jerseys white. So those are my favorite. So I'm a big into the 70s unis, the 80s unis. The early 2000s stuff is a little crazy. It's probably lower on my list than most stuff. But ranking the logo that we have now with every other logo that we've had, I would say is the worst logo, because all the other logos are awesome. That's not saying that logo is bad, because I don't think it's a bad logo. But all of the other logos are cool. I would say, this logo I could see is more like, this is like the logo for a gas station. And the old logo that we had before is more like, this is something out of Looney Tunes. Like, it looks like a really cool... It's not only is it a good logo, but it looks nice. Looks like a good, cool looking like cartoon character. It doesn't bother me. I like it. I'm not saying it's bad. So yeah, I don't really go with that. I would say it's probably it's my least favorite one, but still, it's not a bad logo in my opinion. I'm actually looking at our early 2000s helmet right now because I have one, and yeah, it's a pretty awesome helmet, dude. I love that helmet. But yeah, it's a helmet, I'm just worried about the team. But it was a great question. I mean, I've never really heard. I've this other than from like little kids. Like there's this other little kid playing basketball somewhere, and he was like, "Yeah, I had a Dolphins jacket on," and he's like, "I don't like the Dolphins," and then he's like, "I like the Broncos," and I was like, all right, dude. Like I did, like why you felt the need to tell me that, I don't know. But yeah, those people that pick teams because of it's just they don't watch the teams. They're not in it. They're not in it to win it. They have been, watching for decades upon decades and stuff of that nature. So that is going to be it for this. I don't know why I ranted about that. That story was so unnecessary. It's insane. So I'm sorry I wasted your time with that. But this is the end of the episode, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed. I have enjoyed it. And I am SkyX83. For all your Dolphins news and questions and concerns, keep it here. I almost killed that outro, but I messed it up. And I'll see you guys in the next one.